Most dentists are menaces. There are good dentists like J.E. Phillips, who did the blotting technique, and other dentists know it. But sometimes the holistic dentists are even the more dangerous, like when they tell you to pull out the other fillings that are giving you problems and cavitations and all this stuff. Most of it's nonsense. The shock of pulling a tooth out of your mouth is much more of a global challenge to the entire body than the root canal or whatever else you've got will ever do. You can always shunt a root canal or by using reflexology and techniques like that and certain herbs to prevent further problems. But once you pull a tooth out, it's considered an attack. And say you replace it with a filling. You think a filling substitutes for the meridian?
Aloha and welcome to another episode, guys. Today's episode will take us on a fascinating journey into the world of nutrition, health, and often mysterious workings of the human body. We're setting sail into territories that challenge our traditional beliefs about wellness and what truly benefits our health. Joining us today is Atom Bergstrom, a distinguished expert in the field of nutrition, a prolific author whose voice has been at the forefront of health conversation for decades. Atom's approach to wellness challenges the conventional, offering fresh perspective that provoke thought and inspire change. He's a sought-after speaker and a returning guest who never fails to enlighten our discussions with his deep insights. Today, Atom is here to dive into subjects that promises to deepen our understanding of health and push the boundaries of what we believe is possible. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, guys, and leave us a positive review. It is the best way to support the show, and it helps others to discover these insightful conversations. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Atom Bergstrom to the show.
And I'm glad you're well, and I'm glad I'm well, and we're doing okay.
Yeah, so that's that's incredible for you, your tooth. That's what we wanted to talk about today, about how you healed your teeth. Can you hear me? Am I?
Yeah, one of the things.
My mic was a little bit to the side. Sorry,
you're louder now.
I'm sorry, my mic was on the side. Sorry. So we wanted to talk about teeth and how to heal your tooth.
Yeah, and I'm not a good example because I let mine go to pot. And many mistakes that I made. Vibrant Gal, by the way, told me that she heals 7 cavities by simply oil pulling and with aloe vera. So I've been doing that since I've been here, and I had a lot of trouble backed up before I got here, but that has helped a lot. So we oil pull every day for 20 minutes. Mine is different. I swallow the oil because the oil in your mouth, I think, is healing, and I'm not a big fan of so-called detoxing. Detoxing it takes a lot more than a lot of the things they have these programs for. Then I do the aloe too every day. Hold it in my mouth. Sometimes I go to sleep with it, but you got to be careful you don't swallow it when you do that. And when I had this, of course, I hold the aloe in my mouth several times a day. I take something called thieves oil, which is a Young Living oil product. I don't think anyone else makes it, but they make combinations of clove and lemon and things like that. That used to work for me really the best, but they changed the formula. And then a former girlfriend sent me some kind of medication. I don't even know what this tincture is, but it seems to help some. It helped when I had a minor show that the label. Anyway, between all of those and lots of rest and bag breathing, which helps inflammation. When a person bag breathes, though, they should do it at nighttime because even though it's rare, it can actually cause a heart attack during the day. People die of a heart attack of too much
Carbon dioxide?
carbon dioxide at during the day, but they die of too much oxygen during the night. So the carbon dioxide counteracts the oxygen. It's a yin yang universe. So we have basically hours from 10 to 10 at night to 10 a.m. are mostly anabolic. We go into anabolic state because the darkness tends to relax us and we often sleep, which even makes it more profound. And then from 10 in the morning till 10 in the evening, you are more catabolic because you're moving around. Moving around breaks you down. And if you're a bodybuilder, it's called supercompensation. You break your body down and then it builds up better than it did before the next day. So you keep on breaking it down a little more, and pretty soon you get big muscles. And same thing works in life. When you pay attention to those cycles, you build muscle and immunity and health.
Interesting. So with the aloe or the aloe that you take, you just cut a fresh leaf, take
Fresh
the
leaf. Now,
okay.
Vibrant Gal takes the whole thing. I don't like to take the more what you would call the
This
purgative, the part that gets your bowel moving is
flesh
the peel.
of the
And
peel.
often
Okay.
you buy aloe vera in a bottle, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
they do. They take the peel, and then they sell you the juice, usually, or the gel separate from that. She has no problem with that, but I do, so I just, she actually peels it for me, and then I just have to put it in my mouth. And I've been doing a couple of days, sometimes 2 or 3 or 4 during this crisis here with my teeth. But anyway, I treated them wrong. One of the main things people make is brushing, strangely enough, because what they do is they brush downward and it brushes it into the sulcus. And even if you brush upward, it still ends up in the sulcus. Now,
Okay.
now people know, and the sulcus is that little thing where the dentist sticks his little probe in and says, tisk, tisk, 6 millimeters deep, you're in big trouble. You better have a gingivectomy or something like that, which is a barbaric operation, by the way. So what you do, see, people know about the side of the sulcus. The side of the sulcus, so they floss on both sides and get some things out. But actually, think of the tooth like a carpet, and the sides of it are the sulcus. I mean, the where you floss. But what about the front and the back? When you brush, it all goes down inside the carpet, and it doesn't cause any trouble sitting on the tooth. It's in the sulcus, in that nice place. What the plaque is like, if you want to do this experiment, with which I would rather read about than do, you take a bandage and wrap your finger up really tight. And after about 6 days, you undo it. It's got pus in it. And that's exactly what you're doing in your mouth. That same pussy stuff that doesn't get to the air and is trapped in the sulcus. And it breeds bacteria. And it's the bacteria that cause the plaque to form and ultimately the tartar that you have to go and get it scraped off by the dentist. So anyway, teeth are really interesting, and I didn't discover blotting till later. And then I was on the road all the time, so I didn't do it regularly. Because if you don't do it twice a day, then the plaque start to breed bacteria. You have to clean your teeth with blotting. And it's like a woman blots lipstick. That's all you do. You put the brush and touch your teeth, and you can even chew on the brush, which does about the same thing. I've seen Dr. Phillips, who is the inventor of the blotting brush. He once said, when people say they don't want to do anything, they don't want to do it. So he was on stage. He said, I'm going to do gymnastics, I'm going to blot, and I'm going to give this lecture all at the same time. and darned if he didn't. The guy was amazing.
That's crazy. So the part of your tooth that is hurting, even even at the point where it's already starting to get infection, you can still put the aloe, the
Yep.
um thieves oil and oil pooling all at the same time, or all
No,
separate?
different times
Oh, okay.
across the board. I do it during the day. I'll usually do both the oil pulling and the aloe before I go to bed, but not at the same time. I'll do the
Okay.
oil pulling first for 20 minutes, and
Okay.
then when I go to bed, half hour later, 15 minutes later, 2 hours later, then I'll put the aloe in my mouth and let it sit. Chew it up a certain amount so if I do swallow on it, I won't choke on it. So I kind of get it messed up. So if it does go down, it's just a little bit of slime and in partial parts. But the holding it in the mouth, also, it used to work for me, but not as well now, is garlic. Garlic is an antibiotic and also it works on bacteria, both. But when you swallow it, it's down in your stomach. It's nowhere near your mouth. But if you hold it in your mouth on the side, between your teeth, and bite it and let it time release little by little, the garlic antibiotic and antibacterial will actually seep into your mouth continuously. So all day you just hold it in your mouth. I used to do it at night, but I don't advise it because I was in danger. It never did happen. I was lucky, but if you swallow it, you could be in big trouble. Depending on if it chokes you or whether it gets digested. And usually, if you don't chew things up, the stomach doesn't do a very good job of chewing things up. It might stay in there for days, actually, when people underchew their vegetables. Uh, it stays there a long time. The better you chew, the more thorough the vegetables digest. If you don't chew your vegetables, they last a lot longer than meat. Meat will break down in solid chunks faster than vegetables will.
Wow, and that can get putrid in your stomach sitting in there for so long.
Right, right. Oh, it does cause problems and it causes the stomach to drop. In fact, my own stomach is hanging down further than it should due to an accident I had when I tried to vault a porch railing and
Look
fell
at that.
about 8 feet to the ground on my back. Lost my breath. I could barely breathe. I thought I was going to die, and then I got it back. But that set my transverse colon. It when I did X-rays of it as a colon therapist in the 70s, it was hanging down to my pubic bone, and that's not where your transverse colon is supposed to be.
Right. Oh my gosh. So I'm still curious with your teeth. I'm having such a toothache though. I mean, that's an awful pain.
You
I
know,
mean,
I'm accustomed to. I deal with chronic pain really well. I I
lucky
don't like
you.
it. I don't like it, but I do well. The pain I don't like is instant pain. Like when I worked for a tonometer company where we made tested for glaucoma, I couldn't even stand to have the darn thing touch my eye. It freaked me out. Or needles, things like that. But chronic pain, I've just gotten more and more used to for some reason, and I can deal with it. I do not like it. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, and I suffer. My gal sees me suffering, but I've seen her suffer with some conditions related to teeth too. Okay, and she reminds me that aloe is an anesthetic also, so that helps also.
Wow.
Thank you.
So
She's the aloe doctor, by the way. She knows more about aloe than most other people. Read lots of books and had lots of hands-on experience with it. And again,
wow.
7 cavities is pretty amazing. A technique that I learned from Madonna Lay involving cheddar cheese and garlic and things. Actually, I only know one person that healed a cavity that way, uh, even though it is definitely beneficial to keep plaque and cavities from forming, according to NASA even. It's called, what do they call it? Basically, it heals cavities, and there's only four substances they found. Xylanol, which has some side effects, by the way. The other is cheddar cheese, Swiss cheese, and Monterey Jack.
What?
So you combine that with garlic and onion. This was an O'Donnell formula, and do it at 6:15 in the evening at kidney time. Kidney time has the kidney has control over calcium in the body in acupuncture medicine, and it's pretty well right on. So I found that I would get my worst toothaches at 6:15 exactly. I could tell the clock by it, and so basically that's the time to treat it too. Of course, with solar nutrition, we have organ times and we treat certain things at certain times because it's more accessible at that time. You might have low potassium one time of the day and high potassium the other time of the day, and doctors very rarely factor in circadian rhythms, solar rhythms, and other types of rhythms.
That's
Almost none of them do.
Yeah, exactly. But what do you do, or what did they do with these cheese and garlic and onion? Did they melt it together, grind it up,
I just chew it up in my mouth and put it all together at the same time and just let it chew. The NASA program was just eat the cheese, but O'Donnell said that the cheese provided the calcium, the garlic, the fluorine, and the onion, I believe it was the chlorine. Anyway, these three get together and make basically, if you look at what Pyrex is made out of, it's made out of those three chemicals. So it is a hardening thing. Now, fluorine, when you take it as a mineral, then you get in trouble with it because it also weakens the teeth. But the little bit in garlic is homeopathic. So it's going to actually help you. The so-called hygiene hypothesis or homeopathy or hormesis, I think they call it, the doctors call it, the tiny bit actually starts an immune reaction and actually acts the opposite. Most so-called antioxidants that work that way, they don't work by actually building your body, they work by challenging your body. And that's been realized recently, but they do not want to equate that with homeopathy because, oh no, that has nothing to do with modern medicine.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want to admit to
No,
that.
they don't want to admit any of this. Actually, most of the old-time medical techniques, when they looked at things instead of looking at a chart, your blood pressure says, instead of looking, wow, look at your skin. What's that red spot there? What is that pimple doing on that spot? When I take my stethoscope, how come I feel a murmur here and there's no murmur here, but there's a thud here when I tap it to poke it? That's when they did a lot better than they do now with some separate tests from your body that actually changes every hour.
Really?
They don't tell you that. So most blood tests and other tests are pretty much useless. They can help sometimes if you're in the hospital and have a really serious condition, but for people trying to access their health and see how they're doing, it's mostly useless.
Is there a better time to check a blood pressure, or is it different for everyone?
It's good to check them all the time so you see what's causing it. Because if you do it at liver time, which is 1 to 3 in the morning, you might get a different blood pressure. It might be high, and then my liver has to do with it, and not my heart, or not my thyroid, or not my kidneys, etc. And you can get much more accuracy by doing that. The other thing where people mess up in tests, they say, I'd go in for a blood test. So I ask, what is blood? What is your definition of blood? Well, what do you mean? Blood is blood. No, there are red blood cells, and there is a serum that it floats in. Are they testing your red blood cells, or are they testing the serum? Well, almost always they're testing the serum. Well, what does that have to do with the red blood cells? In fact, if I have, say a person has cancer, the potassium will not be in their blood. It will be in the blood serum. It will be in the cell, as much as 60% more in the cell. Now, the doctor will say, oh, this person has low potassium. No, they can't handle the potassium. So when they get a potassium supplement, more goes in feeding the cancer. And actually, they don't want to do that. Now, what if they have high potassium? That means they're about to have a heart attack because it can't get to the cell to function the cell. So they have no idea about this duality in their tests. And even the proper way actually is to take a reading of the serum, take a separate reading of the cell, and then to see the ratio between them. How much potassium is in one compared to the others, and make a ratio so you can see. Now, it would be silly to do a biopsy of the cell to find the red blood cell. All you have to do, though, is take the serum measurement and then miserate it, just mix it up in a mixer to get the total and subtract. And then you got all readings without any kind of biopsy going on. Simple lab tests that would save millions, actually maybe even billions over the centuries of people's lives. And they won't do it. They're too dense.
Is there any lab that would do something like that?
At this point, no. There was one at one time, a Remedies lab in New York City. In fact, Dr. Remedies had an entire hospital, Trafalgar Hospital, till the medical profession started attacking him, and he finally had to give it up. Then he went to a private lab. He lasted to 101, got his medical license back because they stole a lot of his technology. The idea of oncogenes was supposedly discovered by our Norwegian team. It was Dr. Remedies' work that he had discovered 30 years before under a different name, a different lipid type analysis. But they constantly set him up, brought Dr. Remedies up from Mexico into the University of Chicago, stole his techniques, let him work for a while, fly on his own, and then persecuted him, said he was a nut, and stole a lot of his technology, including high selenium technology. That was one of Remedies, and the fish oil one was one, but they neglected the danger of fish oil. They just gave the medical use of it, and they made that like that was the entire story. You'll find that doctors only get either yin or yang. They can't think both, or the flow between them. They just cannot think that way.
Oh my goodness. And what year was that?
Remedies actually, he escaped Nazi Germany after inventing a type of oil and becoming rich by inventing a type of aviation oil. Hitler had a wanted list out for him to bring him back. He went to France, helped the French resistance against the Nazis, invented some kind of a thing that stopped bleeding for the wounded people. Then he escaped to Monaco, I believe it was, or maybe no, Morocco, and had microfilm inside his mouth that he smuggled out for the U.S. Army, and made it to Mexico, set up a hospital and a hotel down there. That's when the University of Chicago discovered him, brought him up to University of Chicago. And so that was back in the 30s and 40s. And then he got to New York City and had Trafalgar Hospital, I would guess in the 50s and on to the 60s, where he also did psychological work. If you're familiar with Lawrence Lashon, who I actually studied with, Lawrence Lashon was one of the first people to go into the psychogenic parts of cancer, what personalities were apt to get him. No one would give him a job in the 50s, and Dr. Remedies gave him a job where he worked for him for years. And I hung out with Dr. Lashon and never knew that he had that connection with Remedies. Actually, it was before I even knew about Dr. Remedies. I didn't find out about him till the 1990.
Oh, wow. And
And
when
I've
did
been
he pass
fascinated
away?
with him ever since.
Did he pass away recently? Because he lived to 101. Wow.
Yeah, 101. So he did pretty well himself.
Yeah.
And I talked to him on the phone several times. He was going deaf, so it was hard for him to understand. But he thought I was calling him for a treatment, and I wanted information. And he was telling me, go here and do this, take this drug or whatever. uh, and finally, before he died, I think it was his daughter-in-law. I'm not sure exactly who Elena Abram is, but I talked to her on the phone, and she said, "Are you a medical doctor?" I said, "No," because I wanted to go visit with him. And then I said, "But I've read his book 5 or 6 times." And she says, "Okay, you can just come to New York, and I'll hook you up." So I said, "I just come there?" He said, "Yeah, yeah, and then he'll come and see you." He was very affable, very sociable. You could call him. A friend of mine tried to get his book and couldn't get a hold of anything. So finally, she found his home number and got a copy of his textbook while it was still available. That's how I got my first copy of Revisi's textbook. Now it's online. Anybody
Oh,
can read it. They've made it more difficult to access now, but you can still read it
what's the name of
and
his
download it.
textbook? What's the name of his textbook?
Good God. You know, the funny thing is, many times as I've read that, I keep forgetting the title. It's so long. If you put Revisi textbook, Crazy Pharmacist, that's who puts it, you'll get it. It's like the physiopathology of cancer with special application to cancer. It's some long title like that.
Wow.
I remember,
So,
I memorized a lot of the book, but the title I keep having trouble stumbling over for some reason.
what were you saying something about this personality and cancer? What is that?
Well, certain personalities, I personally believe that by doing mind hacking, that 99% to 100% of people actually, if you have any disease, you have a psychomatic connection with it. There's always a who's the matter with the person that causes the problem in the first place. And that's been pretty well acknowledged if you read the old writings that they're covering up now. Now they want to say we have a brain that makes the mind. And actually, back then, they knew that it was the mind that makes the brain. And the only person that seems to know that is Rupert Sheldrake, who is one of the promoters of that. The mind is actually in the field, morphogenic field, morphogenetic field, whatever you want to call it. It's there. Now, I used to wonder, well, then why, when you have brain damage, can you not connect with the field? Why does that happen? Though some claim it did, but it really doesn't. And then Dr. Sheldrake explained, simple, the brain is the hardware. It's the receiving section for your own brain. And see, scientists can't handle that. They call Sheldrake a quack, and all kinds of other names. But actually, it is a receiving field. And that explains the whole thing. Now, here's how we do it. The brain is considered by scientists as the radio. But the scientists think, oh, the radio is where the signal's coming from. And of course, anyone into physics will know that's preposterous. It's coming from the radio station. So the New Age thinks it's in the wave. But actually, when they're listening to Willie Nelson on the radio, the wave is coming from a radio station. So it is coming from a physical place, just not there. Now, the radio station is playing a recording of Willie Nelson because he's actually in the Caribbean vacationing at the time. So it gets more complicated. Acceleration is the wave. As Donald Swami Nitty Gritty explained it to me one time, he looked up in the sky and he said, you see all those stars up there throughout the cosmos. They're all acceleration. There is physicality, but you can fit the universe in a thimble, the physical part of it. Everything else is acceleration, and that means mind. Acceleration was his word for mind. So we have mind acting on mind ultimately. When once you get out of the matrix, you realize that this is all a mind game. Only you have to have a strong enough mind because you have 8 billion other minds counteracting you and saying that's nonsense. And so, unless you're strong enough to override that and basically step off the Empire State Building and know that you're going to fly away, like in the Matrix, you're not going to do it. Most people, they better start small, like fight the common cold or fight something else, and then move on to the big stuff. Because there are degrees. In fact, the amazing Randy, remember that quacky magician who douses any kind of paranormal effects? He once said, he kind of sarcastically said, what we need is a more efficient placebo. And when I heard him say that, I thought to myself, yes, that's exactly what we need, a better placebo, because placebos have gradations too. One person can get rid of a cold, but they can't get rid of cancer. Some people can get rid of cancer, but they can't fall off a building and survive. Other people have fallen from a parachute for thousands of feet up, landed in a haystack and survived. Look at the guy who just jumped off the Brooklyn Bridge a couple of days ago. He survived.
Really? I didn't hear about that.
Yeah,
Oh,
people have actually jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge too. One of them, what was his name? Tully Kupferberg. He was one of a group called the Thugs back in the psychedelic days. So he was high on acid. He jumped off the bridge and survived.
he probably thought he was jumping into this puddle of, I don't know. Who
Probably
knows?
so. I'm
Yeah,
jumping into the cosmos. I'm
yeah,
okay. And he was.
yeah.
I
Wow.
think only 4 people who have survived who jumped off that bridge. There were a lot of them. My half brother, by the way, helped paint that bridge, repaint it. You know, they have to paint it all the time. And he was a painter, and so he was up there at the same. One of his gigs was at the Golden Gate Bridge.
That it's definitely high. So falling, I
High,
don't,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't like heights. I don't like standing on chairs. I don't mind flying in planes, interesting enough, but otherwise, I'm not a big fan of ladders.
Yeah, well, it's dangerous. You could fall. I knew somebody that fell and broke their neck. So,
Yeah, I have a friend of mine. He had a worker at his house fell to his death, was
yep,
killed. Because
yep.
now, though, during the last couple of years, everybody who fell off a ladder, of course, died of COVID.
That's true, right? That's so weird.
Not with COVID, but by
Right.
COVID.
Yeah.
Watch out on your ladders.
Yeah. So this personality cancer, they were saying that like with the mind hack, certain personalities maybe have certain cancers that they notice. Is that what
You know,
that
you
one
can
was about?
find the tracings of it. With
Mm,
mind hacking, you get a nervous signal, yes or no.
mm-hmm.
They have pretty much discounted lie detectors now because it's too complicated. You got blood pressure, you got respiration, you got this and that and all, and you got one side of the body. But with mind hacking, you get a clear yes or no. If a person is traumatized and you're holding their feet, you feel a signal come to you from the left or right. When it's from the left, it's a male. When it comes from the right, it's a female. And it sounds really new agey, but that's the way it works. Now, I have theories about why it works that way, because the eliminated part of our body is on the left side. The descending colon, the aorta, it goes downward in our body, and on the other side it goes up. That's why you can do these kinesiological movements down on this side, up on that side, and strengthen a person and weaken them the other way. But the male is ejaculative, so you get an outward movement, and the absorption part back into your heart and your colon is actually the water colon where it absorbs things back into your body is the female process, yin and yang. It was known as a dot and a dash in the I Ching, and it's been known like that for a long time. But whatever it is, whatever causes it, I found with 100% accuracy, I've never found an exception yet even though I believe in exceptions to the rules. I find that if a person has a male trauma, it's on the left, and a female trauma on the right. So when you find the nerve signal, it always acts like that. Other places in the body, it's not 100% on. It's about 80 to 90%, which is pretty good statistics for a statistic actuary or insurance actuary. But it's 100% down to the feet. So then you will know who's causing the problem. You will know who did it. And then people ask, well, once you know about it, what do you do about it? You keep asking the body, because everybody knows how they got it on their unconscious. Their unconscious can tell you the story. So if you keep on turning their feet, they'll give you the answer. And if they give an answer that is wrong or is going to be harmful to them, they'll get a reaction. They won't get a reaction. You can't lie detect something that makes a person happy, but you can find anything that makes them negative, which where else can you find anything like that? It's hard to explain this to people because they're used to German new medicine and recall healing, and those basically are so vague they're virtually useless. There's the basis of truth in them, but you can't use them. Now, with mind hacking, say a person goes to German new healing and they say they got cured, I can turn their feet and find out if they are. A friend of mine in Sedona went to a healer who said he took the trauma out of her memory bank. I turned her feet and she mentioned the person's name, and I said, "You have a trauma with this person still." "Oh no, Roger took it out of my memory bank." I said, "Well, if he took it out of your memory bank, how come I can find her down here in your feet?" So that's why it is also a meter or a test for all other techniques. I've never found another technique that can test. My muscle response testing is inaccurate. It doesn't work all the time. You get some ridiculous readings. It has a limited use. I use it for meridians and for muscle testing for the muscles. It does not work for nutrition. It does not work for a lot of other things that they claim it works for. It just becomes the subconscious giving an opinion, and the opinion can often get people in big trouble. So though I use muscle response testing, applied kinesiology, behavioral kinesiology, all of these type of techniques, there's a warning to keep it under control. Know that you could be in a dead end with it.
Is there any foundational beliefs about relationships between nutrition and dental health, or even nutrition and cancer?
Yeah, I'm a classic example. One of the ways I got into trouble is missing. If you have teeth problems, you have a problem with missing the boat is one, where you almost make it but don't make it. And I've had a classic existence with that, often doing it myself, making my own problems. And then the second one is separation from nature. And right now, we're separated from nature. And I've been separated from nature a lot. When I was a child, I was raised in upstate New Jersey, which is all country. When we moved, they made it into a bird refuge. I was out there. Back then, parents let you wander. I would wander for miles in the woods. I never got lost, or if I did, I found my way out. And through creeks, and there were all kinds of wild animals and everything. Nothing ever got me. I would walk for miles through the woods, stone hopping over streams, catching crayfish, all kinds of things out in the woods. Then I went to the city and I started getting denatured. But I didn't really get denatured till I came to California, because before I moved out here in 55, when I was 14, I was living in the New Jersey swamp in Teaneck. And I would go walking and hiking through the swamp all the time. And one of our funnest things was to throw ourselves into the bushes where we didn't know where anything was and count the number of black and blue marks we had at night. So sometimes I would, in the bathtub, uh, count close to 40 black and blue marks. Really stupid, but kids do things like that. And I had a very good immune system and survival, so it never bothered me. They just healed up like that.
Yeah. And today, I guess because we're so separated from that,
Yeah,
we
so
get
now I've
sick.
been really separated from me.
Mm,
I admired a naturalist I met back in the 80s. This guy spent most of his life in the outdoors writing books about herbs all over the world. He was even in Siberia. He was in South America. He was all through the U.S. and Mexico and all these other countries, China. And he slept outside. He said he had no problem just lying down in the rain and going to sleep with the rain pouring all over him. And I thought, geez, I go out in the rain, I get a cold, like with the phone company and things like that, or I get a draft. Sometimes I'd get a cold. So I really admire that. And I have lost that ability that I had as a child, but somehow through traumatization, it, going through life, you end up with certain problems. Many problems, again, by psychogenesis, I've been able to solve. I actually have figured out how to get, and several times I've done it, gotten rid of a cold instantaneously. But I don't know how I do with cancer or any of that. I've gotten rid of a lot of other conditions like edema and things, mostly from sometimes with a change of diet and sometimes with a change of thinking and sometimes a change of both.
edema, that's where you swell up with water retention.
Yeah, and that was from eating tuna all my life. So
Oh, yeah.
you can eat too much of a thing. Now they blame
Mm.
mercury, but it's not the mercury that's doing it. The mercury in the ocean is a absorbable mercury. It's not like the laboratory made or the manufacturing type. It will pretty well go out of your body. Newton used in his lab tremendous amounts of mercury. He got serious Mad Hatter's disease, mercury poisoning. He like went crazy for about 3 years. Then he just stopped working in the lab and it eventually left his body. So they want to blame tuna for having all that mercury in it. That's not the cause. They advise people to have it only 2 times a week because they know you'll get yellow fat disease and the symptoms will show. And two, you'll just think, oh, I'm getting old, I'm getting a little stiff here and that kind of thing. Well, when I got here to Montecito, I had already started having a swollen ankle. And one time they got big, not quite the size of wastebaskets, but big. But it went away in a day. But when I got here, I had 2 episodes and I was having all kinds of other problems too. When I discovered Ray P, even though I cherry picked from Ray P, because a lot of things I'm not going to do, like drink Lucerne milk out of the Safeway. No way. Uh, I I realized I looked up yellow fat disease and I found out that it's a very real thing and it's easy to research on the internet. I've written 14 books about it and I could write more if I wanted to, but it gets boring writing about yellow fat disease. Well, anyway, my problems, I had a series of problems when I got here. Uh, the edema was one. So I gave up tuna and I gave up mayonnaise and I started eating whole foods and oranges and kale, things that Ray Pete recommended. And the following things happened. My edema disappeared and my right ankle, female trauma, was always a little more swollen than the other. Now you can't tell the difference. And that's been since 2015. That's 9 years with no edema. Well, before I'd have an episode, and the one ankle was slightly swollen. The other thing that happened, when I went to the bathroom, I had to dab my butt because it would bleed. That stopped within a couple of weeks of giving up the tuna and stuff. Now I can wipe my butt with sandpaper. The other thing, my gums bled. If I touched it with a napkin, there'd be blood on it. That stopped. The other thing that happened is my left leg would not go down into a cross-legged yoga meditation position. It started going down. The other thing, and the earwax in my ear started clearing up. And the other thing I had is, are you familiar with petechia? Or the larger version, which its name escapes me, you'll suddenly get a purple spot on your body. And sometimes the bigger ones will be an inch wide, and you didn't bump anything. It just appeared.
Yeah,
And
I've heard of that.
purpura, that's what they call the bigger ones. And so I was getting these, and I looked up in books, and they can be very serious. It can be end-stage liver disease. It can be all kinds of things. I was having those since the 90s when I got my first one. And then I would have them. They would just appear in various places on my arms, usually, every couple of months even. And so I was thinking, holy cow, I'm about to check out here. When I stopped the tuna and I did the oranges and I did the kale, they stopped. I haven't had a purpura, knock on wood, where's the wood here, since 2015. No purpura. And then I had easy bruising. That started coming back recently, but I took some kale and things, and it seems to be cured again. Also, my varicose veins were getting bad, and they stopped, and even somewhat were rehabilitated. My spider webs, my spider veins started healing and turning brownish instead of purplish, so that's improved. Anyway, there were some other improvements I can't think about, but that was a big bunch of improvement. Now, how much did it have to do with my mind, too? Because I went through a series of very bad relationships, not their fault. A lot of it was my fault. And then I met Vibrant Gal, and everything's rosy now. We do really well together. And 5 wives, numerous girlfriends, all kinds of relationships, it can't help but make you a little crazy.
I would think.
I probably drove them crazy too. I spent some time apologizing to them because I'm still friends with a lot of
That's
my
good.
exes.
Well, yeah, one of them sent you some medication that
Yeah,
they
that's
made.
right. That's right.
So,
A long time. We were together for 2 or 3 years at one time. And then later we became platonic roommates when it was convenient to get a place. I needed a place over Donna Lay's place. And by synchronicity, what was her name? I don't even remember the other person's name. But here's how synchronicity works. We were thinking of getting a place together, but we needed a third person. One was going to have one bedroom, the other, and I would have the big walk-in closet right above Adano's clinic so I could go to school and my girlfriend could get to work easily downtown. So we needed a third person. So a person was seeing Adano for a session, and she told Adano, do you know anyone who wants a roommate? Because I'm looking for a roommate. And the phone rings. And Adano answers it and says, hello. I said, do you know anyone who has a roommate, wants to be a roommate, Adano? He said, it's for you, to whoever that person was. And I talked directly to her. All 3 of us moved in together. Just before, what was that movie, Three's a Crowd or whatever? With you remember that? we did
Jack
that trip just before that show started.
Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, Jack Tripper.
Yep.
Right?
But anyway, those kind of relationships make you crazy. You get a psychogenic effect. And you never know when you do a healing how much is coming from the mind and how much is coming from the thing you put in your mouth or the therapy you do
True.
or whatever.
So that was quite interesting. So when you were bleeding from the gums, when you were getting those purple spots, I forget what you called them, is that you think from tuna or part of it?
Yeah, well, fortunately, because I had limited money. They always said, "Oh, it's best to get the water pack tuna." But when I went to Whole Foods or someplace, it's like $4 a can. Well, I could get uh, the oil pack one for 79 cents at Costco or Walgreens, even at Walmart rather. And so the oil tends to take some of the omega 3s out because you usually pour off the oil. I didn't take that and I just took the tuna. So actually, if I'd had enough money to buy red salmon, which I really had a taste for, canned red salmon, $5 a can, even back 20, 30 years ago, I would have been in deeper trouble. But because there was limited amount in tuna, if you have whole tuna, if you have fresh tuna, you're getting a lot of omega 3s, depending on how cold the water is that they're swimming into. But anyway, fortunately, it could have been a lot worse. And over years and years, I was a total vegetarian for 14 years, so I didn't have any tuna then. But every other time, I ate tuna all the time. I sometimes 2 or 3 times a day for breakfast. I love tuna.
Wow. So it's the omega-3 in it that possibly made you bleed.
Yeah, it's a DHA, and the DHA and EPA are actually the worst of them. And there's a third one that's minor, that's in anchovies and things. So they can be really bad. Now, fish can be therapeutic in small amounts
Mm-hmm.
because we age mainly by lipofuscin. It's a chemical that is like a garbage that gets into the cell. It gets into the cell and it gets into the interstitial fluid also. There's 2 locations of it. It gets into the mitochondria and jams up the machinery. Well, lipofuscin is part of aging. And it's so accurate for aging that you can measure a fish or a bear and find its exact age almost to the week in some cases by lipofuscin. But that's because most animals are restricted to one type of diet. With human beings, we can be vegans, we can be carnivores, we can be keto, we can be just about anything we want to do. Even that Mr. Eats-All who ate Cessna airplanes and bicycles and shopping carts and everything and digested it. So we have an advantage over animals. So our lipofuscin cannot really tell our age. It's only known that when you're born, you have very little in your cells. And by the time you're 70, 80, or 90, you're loaded with it. And lipofuscin used to be thought of as something that just was garbage in your room. So, like, you have to move around, move stuff out of the way. But now it's more like a live animal in your room that might bite your leg because it can be transferred from one cell to the other and basically can start a process of aging, super aging. Uh, Aubrey de Grey is an aging expert and one of the few authentic ones, even though he has drug approaches to his technology, which I don't approve of. But he knows that lipofuscin is the cause of, or omega 3s are the cause of the cellular type. There's 7 deadly sins of aging. 2 of them, the lipofuscin in the cell and in the interstitial fluid. Then a third one is called AGEs, which is actually advanced glycation end products. And we all thought that was sugar, but actually one of the main ingredients are vagrant proteins that also act as allergens, and omega-3 fatty acids. So it actually inhabits three types of major forms of aging. And there are other ways to age too, but those three are really important. And if you miss them and eat a whole bunch of flax oil, fish oil, salmon oil, krill oil, algae oil, all of those things that are omega-3 that they say are necessary, essential fatty acids, which is nonsense, then you're going to age faster. It's hard to get around it unless you have so much mental force you can think your way out of it, which I believe is possible. But how many people can be like Neo, talk in a phone booth, come out of it, put on fancy shades, and fly off into the stratosphere? Not many of us can do that. So
No. And you said flaxseed oil, krill oil.
Yeah, that's another one. Definitely.
Yeah.
All
how
of those
about
oils that they say you can get omega-3 fatty acids out of. In fact, isn't it interesting that if you put rags near flax oil, linseed oil, they'll catch fire, spontaneous combustion? That's because it spoils so quickly, it can damage your body. And then if you take fish meal and parts of fish and fish oil and transfer them by ship, it's actually a law that you must have ethoxyquin or a powerful chemical to inhibit the cod liver oil or the other oils from exploding. You can't make this stuff up. They explode. And there were numerous deaths from ships completely blowing up by just transporting fish meal, much less fish oil.
Wow.
And flax oil can do the same thing, but it's not quite as dramatic because it doesn't have as oxidizing an oil. Now, it's known that omega-6s cause that problem. They warn them about it causing cancer. But then how do they explain that omega-3, which is even more volatile, causes a problem? And let's go to the next level of the scam. They made all the oil saying omega-3s are essential fatty acids because you couldn't use them in paints and fertilizers anymore because they got wise to it. So they had to make it into a health thing and make even more money. Okay, now they don't allow oils to be, what do you call it, processed like they did because of the dangers of it, they claim. So what they do now to get around it, they actually sell what's called high oleic oils, like high oleic soy oil. But why do they do that? It's called high oleic, but it's actually low linolenic. Now, there'll be 4 omega-3s, but against linolenic. It's the same thing. It's just under another name. So they bamboozle people. So what they do to make an oil that won't jam up fast food machines and age salmon prematurely, they actually take out the linolenic oil, the omega-3s, that the salmon would normally even have. And then they add oleic acid, and then they say we reduce the cholesterol in it. How much cholesterol is in the soy oil? It's 1%, for God's sake. So by taking out the oleic acid, the linolenic acid, alpha-linolenic acid, they don't jam up their fast food machine. Linolenic acid alpha-linolenic acid, they don't jam up their fast food machine. So that means if it jams up a food machine and you can't use fish oil in your automobile engine, do you think it's not going to affect your body? For God's sake, it's just common sense.
That's true. There's another oil too. What is it called? Not astraxanthic. What is it? It starts with an A, and it's actually made in Hawaii. Um,
Hmm.
it's the one that helps with your joints, they say. And I think it's red. It's because they say the flamingos eat this.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
Let me think a bit. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's a carotene, and a lot of the carotene things, it's not really harmful, but it's not really that beneficial either. You can get a tan from it. It's related. It's in the carotenoid family. The carotenoids actually are antioxidants in ways. They can prevent oxidation to a certain degree, but also they can cause it. They're long lasting. When when uh, when oil engineers went down into the shale and areas like that, they would find a lot of things would be destroyed, but orange, yellow, and red pigments, carotenoids, would be preserved over the years. And here's an interesting story about color. The higher vibration the color gets, the less it lasts. So red is the most lasting of all. Orange second, yellow next, then green is less lasting. In fact, if you grow oranges at the tropics, they're green when they're ripe because they don't have a frost to destroy the chlorophyll. The same chlorophyll gets destroyed during the winter when maple leaves, bright green, always had red, orange, and beautiful yellow pigments, but now the green is destroyed and you see it. The green does not last. Blue, it's almost unheard of in nature. It's in flowers, but in animals, what about a blue jay? A blue jay is a reflection. You're seeing the sky reflected in that blue jay. If you take a blue jay feather, nice and blue, and hit it with a hammer enough, it will be black. It's a black feather that reflects like an oil slick with all those colors. There's only one true semi-blue bird in existence. It lives in South America, and every time it rains, the blue pigment washes out, and now it's a green bird until it regrows some of the blue pigments. But otherwise, what about a lobster? The blue is so volatile that as soon as you cook the lobster, it's not blue anymore. It's red because the pigments go. So we have a vibrational scale that if you want longevity, though, you're going to use red. So you want to get your pigments together. And the violet, which is spiritual and stuff, has more to do with mind and mental ideas than anything else. So you have a chakra system. Red is number 1, orange is 2, yellow is 3, green is 4, blue is 5, indigo is 6, and violet is 7. And 8 is clear, because you don't go to a therapist to get opaque or colored of a trauma. You go to get clear, transparent. Interesting word, transparent. you disconnect from your parents as separate people, because most people, this is a shocker to a lot of people, never get clear of their parents. Their parents are orchestrating a large part of their lives, even after they're dead and gone.
That's true. Is that why they call not transvestites or tranny or whatever? Does that have something to do with it?
You know, you can always find from when you do mind hacking, you're always going to find male on one side, female on the other side. And no matter what you do, you're going to find what the true biology is that way, however it is. and it's
True.
always left and right.
But you were saying that trans means separation, so like when they're transvestites, they're
Well,
separating.
they're always going to go back to how they were born. Now, transvestism actually happens naturally sometimes. There are
Yeah,
hermaphrodites.
yeah.
A surprising amount of people are born with two organs, and the doctors figure a way, what do you want, a girl or a boy? And a lot of it has to do with testosterone. Uh, about 30 years ago, there was an Olympic contender who was a woman, and she was stronger than the others. So they gave her an Olympic test and found out she was a male. She had no idea she was raised as a woman. Now, with mind hacking, that would have been clear. Uh, but here's the funny thing that happened. When they investigated further, they found that a type of woman that men like, that are in Playboy type women, are often XY women, not XX women, but XY women. And the only difference, they're perfectly normal, perfectly female, they just can't have children. So, two very famous actors, who the author wouldn't divulge at that time, were actually found out they were XY women, that their testosterone had overridden or their estrogen had overridden their original sex, to make it the other way. So it's really an interesting subject. And
Mm.
if someone would take mind hacking and do some investigations, which they probably don't want us to do, there might be some surprising revelations come out from it. But mind
Interesting.
hacking always finds there's a yin and a yang, there's a left and a right, and a flow between them. And
Interesting.
the flow between them, you basically have your father running the left side of your body and your mother the right side. As strange as it is, and how it came about, I can't say. I can only theorize, but I know it's there because I've done sessions on thousands of people and always found left and right as the trauma. Now, what confuses some people about that, by the way, many times I have turned a woman's feet and found that they were abused, sexually abused as a child. And it goes to the mother. Well, at first I thought, this doesn't fit. But then I realized they blamed the mother for it. And 9 out of 10 times, now, when I told the psychotherapist that, he said, we've known that all these years. It's nothing new. But I found out about it in people's feet, finding it over and over. Now, eventually, you would find a trauma with the father for doing that, but it would be secondary. Always the mother, they felt, had to protect them from the father because they were closest and bonded to the father through breastfeeding and nursing and holding and all of that. So it was the mother they depended on for the protection, not the father. I have found an exception to the rule where they were closer to the father, but it's really, really rare. I would say 1 out of 30 or 40 or maybe more cases. But there it is. So that would confuse people. They say, well, the father did this. But no, if you keep turning the feet and asking questions, then you find out what happens. And so you don't have to read a psychology book. You can find this out yourself. And I found out about 5 or 6 or more things before reading about it. Other things I already knew about, sibling rivalry, things like that. But some things I just found out on my own. And then when I investigated, found out I was reinventing the wheel.
Is there any, or I should say, maybe how does chronobiotic nutrition, how does that, or can that influence tooth health?
What kind of nutrition?
What do you call it? Chronobiotic?
Oh, chronobiotic nutrition, right.
Yes.
What's
Sorry.
happened is it was originally called solar nutrition. Then
Yes.
we wrote a book called Chronobiotic Nutrition because of copyright issues. And then now we have Sunsync Nutrition. And someone else came out with some other kind of nutrition. But basically, the solar rhythms have a certain effect on our bodies over millions and millions and millions of sunrises and sunsets that programmed us. The new circadian rhythm experts want to say it's in your body and the environment doesn't affect you anymore, which is absolute nonsense because it does affect you. If you go in a cave, you're going to get a 25-hour rhythm. Now, these idiots say that, well, that shows that's your natural rhythm. It's your natural rhythm in a cave, but if you shine a bright light, like you see on the highway construction, and you hang in the cave there, you're going to go to a 23-hour rhythm. We're set to sunrises and sunset, whether we like it or not. You go in a cave, you're going to have a 25-hour rhythm because you're going to slow your body down. You go in bright light, you're going to speed it up. So they have no idea, and they want to make it a genetic problem so they can adjust it genetically. When actually all of these rhythms, just by going out in the sunlight, will correct it. And by eating foods, we have a food clock that corrects it. And we can even have an exercise clock and a 6 clock that will adjust it further. If you align all those clocks, you get perfect timing. And they know that what they call dyschrony or mistiming is a major cause of aging too. So automatically through solar nutrition, eating tree foods in the morning, as strange as it sounds, and bush foods and vine foods in the middle of the day, and root foods at night, gives you an advantage because they're more digestible. Now think about it. Your head and upper body is like a bush from your chest up. It's even called the respiratory tree, not the respiratory vine or the respiratory root, but the respiratory tree. And then in the middle of your body, it tends to go in circles like a small intestine. You'll find midday foods tend to be vines, quite often vines, like a watermelon, even a tomato, it's a vine. And then at nighttime, you will find roots that seek to go downward to the center of the earth to gravity or water. And so the root foods are going to be at night. Our root is our sexual organ. A male organ is often called a root. And the root heads downward. So you get your nighttime energy by aligning that. Now, the first plant to get light in the morning is a tree. So it'll be nice and warm up on the palm trees and the pine trees, but the ground will be so cold that Father Kneipp out of Germany used to have people walk on the cold grass barefoot in the morning. I used to do it myself, and it's icy cold. Then the grass warms up and the breeze comes through the trees and cools it off. And if the tree is tall enough, it stops metabolizing at 12 noon. Very interesting, right according to solar nutrition rules. And then the residual heat, the heat of the day, is infrared, goes down into the ground. You get nothing but infrared heat energy. You don't get any light energy go down. And so the ground is warm to about 5 feet, and then it starts to get cooler and cooler till you get 56 to 58 degrees normally underground, till you get way underground when it gets hot. So if you follow those patterns in your body, you actually get healthier. And I've seen people with doubling and even tripling their calories lose weight by following that plan, by just eating tree foods like apples and avocados and almonds in the morning, and tomatoes and cucumbers, and if they eat meat, beef and chicken at that time of day. And at nighttime, eat roots or even fish and beets and potatoes and things. If they follow that pattern, many people will just lose weight like that if they don't have a psychosomatic trauma or have a gallbladder problem or some other complication. I've seen people make dramatic weight losses. And myself, one time I went on a ride with a former girlfriend of mine. There's more trouble. And we got in a fight down in Orange County. So I had to hitchhike all the way back to Carpinteria. Well, I didn't have any money with me except for a quarter. So on the way up, two people gave me beers. I got stuck at Trancas Beach and couldn't get out of there. Slipped in a culvert overnight. Uh, had a Tootsie Roll. I had enough to buy one Tootsie Roll. That's all I had for 36 hours. So I called my mother up and said, I'm late. I'm stuck here because I think I borrowed a dime from somebody because I had a dime left. And she said, I'll pray for you. Well, weirdly, I got a ride right out of there. But as soon as I got back to Carpinteria, I wanted to see how much weight I lost because I was trying to gain weight and bodybuild. I got on the scale. I was 10 pounds heavier. So to make sure, I told my mother, can you get on the scale? Something must be wrong with the scale. She was the same weight. I thought, wow, I misinterpreted. I thought my metabolism has slowed down. Now I can gain weight. So I'm going to stuff myself with 3 times as much as I normally eat and gain more weight. I lost all 10 pounds in 1 week. All 10 pounds gradually came off till I was the same weight as before I went on my hitchhiking expedition. So that's when I realized that what Donald Lay, Swami Nitty Gritty, was telling me about solar nutrition was true. And I've seen it in quite a few other cases too.
So how would not eating and only eating a Tootsie Roll make you gain the 10 pounds? Was it because you were stressed?
Gas pressure and stress. Yeah, we bloat.
Ah.
I had a lady, I did several clients like this. One woman fell down the stairs, so I was treating her for the injury. It was on the right side. Well, she fell down the stairs and complained that she gained 35 pounds in 1 month after that. What happened is she injured herself, was caused a gas pressurization to build up and retain water and retain liquids along with it. And the trauma was her daughter-in-law. She did not approve of her son marrying this woman. And so she was traumatized by it. So here was a trauma with the daughter-in-law causing an accident, a very well-planned event by the subconscious, and then causing this weight gain. And many people have weight gains like that simply by being traumatized. It gives you strength in the same way that when you see an animal in the wild, what do? They get big. They even advise you if you're hiking in Arizona and you come across a mountain lion, act big because they're afraid of something big. Your hair even stands up on lots of animals, and even when we're in fear, our hair stands up. So the bigness actually is a defense mechanism. In fact, fat is partly a defense mechanism to protect us from cold, from injury, things of that. If a fat person falls down, except for the extra weight, they kind of keep themselves from cutting themselves. Like a thin person like me, I got to watch out on concrete and things of that nature. So I have seen people bloat up. I know a case where a woman bloated up 100 pounds, and they told her she was going to die. And I told her what to do over the phone, which involved yawning and stretching and some other techniques. She lost 100 pounds in several days. And then she was also bleeding, and I simply asked her if she was taking ginger. She said, oh, yeah, lots of it. That'll make you bleed. It's like
really?
aspirin. So be very careful with ginger. It's a natural aspirin. So she got some vitamin K and stopped bleeding. And so she lived, she had other serious problems. So she lived another 5 or 6 years, I believe, before she went on cosmic vacation. But basically that advice saved her life.
Wow. So is there anything that one can eat or should eat at a certain time for teeth health?
For what?
For teeth health? For your teeth?
Definitely. Now, teeth are in zone 1. Your zone 1 is from your rib cage up. Your zone 2 is only to do with your digestion, but it's a very important part, even though small. Most of your foods are in midday. They grow about like vines or bushes or corn, things of that nature, and then your roots are at night. So teeth are obviously going to have a lot to do with your morning foods. So one thing is cashews. If you eat cashews, they have, let's see, what is the name of that acid? It begins with an A. There's an acid in it that actually protects your teeth. And by
Aloe
chewing
acid?
nuts in the morning and eating them, you tend to get less cavities. But the acid in cashews is one example. It also helps plate the jaw so that when people have bone loss out of their jaw, if you're going to replate parts in your upper body, you want to have morning foods. If you want to have it at the middle of the day, it's middle foods. If you have leg problems, you're going to eat root foods because your roots are your legs. That is our roots are our legs. Now, take an example, the breast. There's an intermediate food in the orange and grapefruit family. And what is a breast but an overgrown lymph gland? And what do they tell you to take for lymph? Lemons, oranges, things of the citrus family, because they work on it. So when a person has a problem with a breast and wants to protect from breast cancer and things, they simply take orange at spleen pancreas time, 9 to 11 in the morning, because this time gradually goes down. You get your taller trees in the very early morning. Your orange trees are not quite as tall, and then you go down into your bushes, your tall bushes like blueberries and goji berries and things like that. And then you keep going down into the water foods. And isn't it interesting that watermelons and those foods are at bladder time and kidney time? My goodness, that's water foods. Cranberries are at kidney time. They're in the water. A blueberry is a cranberry that crawled out of the water, and so you eat that actually at midday and even the very late morning if they're tall enough blueberry plants. So if you follow this pattern, the pattern is all around us, and doctors don't look for patterns. They look at little pieces of paper and make charts and don't use common sense in how it works. It used to be called doctrinal, let me see, the law of correspondences. And a modern name of it is geometric body resonance. Things that look like, act like each other, but they're not like. And that's a reflex. If you have a shoulder pain, it looks a lot like the hip. And indeed, you can work on the hip and get rid of a shoulder pain. If you massage the shoulder too much, it'll make more pain. But if you go to the distal point, the hip. Now, people used to wonder that I could find these points because you have to memorize thousands of points. Well, here's the secret. Look at the back of the body. 2 triangles called scapula, right? And then hip bones are triangles too. Okay, you have a pain on this part of the triangle upper. You simply go to that part on this side, and just to make sure the other side, and you find a pain, and you relieve the pain in the shoulder. And they think you're a miracle worker when you're just following the geometry. It's like you have a map. You don't need to learn, oh, this point is that, and that acupoint is Dingwell, and that is this and that and whatnot. You just follow the geometry. Donald Lake called it geometric body resonance. Ralph Allen Dale, a well-known acupuncturist, called it anatomical alliteration. Whatever you call it, it works. It's harmonics. I hit a guitar string, another one vibrates if I get to a certain pitch, and then another one if I get to another pitch. And so the secret of reflexology and acupuncture and all these medical referral points, even the doctors have their own reflex system, is resonance. But they want to go into the neurological system, and if it's out of the neurological system, it can't be alive. Oh, how does a plant? Do they have a really advanced neurological system and a spinal cord and everything? That's very interesting. I did not know that.
That's interesting. Um, so can juice act the same way? Like if you drink apple juice in the morning or orange juice in the afternoon, does that work as same as eating them?
Yes. Now, here's a funny thing. Juice is particularly good if you're in a weakened condition, but
Mm,
actually it digests less well than solid foods.
mm,
And people have that mixed up. I mean, it's a
yeah.
common error that people make. Now, think about it. When you drink juice, it gets absorbed into the body and it's so dilute it can't get absorbed. So the water gets absorbed, but you don't get the nutrients. When you eat a soup that has chunks in it, the water is instantly taken away and the solid food is dealt with because the acid has to be strong enough to start the digestion process. Otherwise, anything that doesn't have that acid bath goes through, doesn't really digest. So when you eat a stew, you get it. The exception to the rule of if you drink your juice, it's not like a sin or anything like that. You just get a little less digestion. But yes, you can have pomegranate juice in the morning for the kidneys, for instance. Uh, and then you can have tomato juice for the kidneys later. And you can have watermelon juice or other melon juice or grape juice at bladder time, 3 to 5, and then at kidney time, 5 to 7, cranberry juice, and then 9 to 11 at night, pineapple juice. So I'm lazy, so I have it in a juice form. Why not?
Yeah. Interesting. Is there any advice that you have for people with sensitive teeth or sensitive gums or ongoing dental issues?
Well, first of all, mind hack and find out who's the matter with them. But
Okay.
the dental, but after going to that, going into the physical nature, it's usually something they're eating. Some food is making their mouths sensitive. And because there are different allergens and different food intolerances and different times of day to eat food, you'll get rid of a lot of that by eating the correct times. But you'll get irritations by maybe eating potatoes for breakfast or tuna for breakfast, like I did at one time, and or eggs for breakfast. Eggs are actually a nighttime food, paradoxically, while your morning foods are going to be your fruit, your prunes, and things like that. Oatmeal is not a morning food, it's a midday food. Good for the heart. They say oats for the heart. Well, heart meridian is 11 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon. So then you fill in your oats at that time of day. So by doing that, it gets rid of food sensitivities. Also, uh, some of the foods are irritating in themselves. Like if you're going to take cayenne pepper, black pepper, things like that, they will be irritating and cause a reaction. Just like if you keep rubbing a part of your body, you will often get an irritation. I often, when I'm on the computer, I put this elbow up against there. You see how it's chapped right at the bottom of it? So I keep putting aloe on it though, and that helps it from getting worse. But the same thing with your teeth. Your sensitivity can be caused anywhere, and you put an emollient on it. Aloe would be one reason, one really good for sensitivity, and oil pulling.
That would help.
We
That's
use
awesome.
olive oil, and even though sesame oil is an omega-6 oil, it doesn't have that much 6 in it. If you're going to spit it out, it's no problem. And even swallowing it, a little bit of oil isn't going to really hurt. When I talk about avoiding things, I'm really talking about minimizing things. You cannot minimize omega 3s or omega 6s, or even in butter. They're even in coconut oil, unless you go to the extreme and refine it like Ray Pete did. And finally, he even gave up on that. He figured, what the heck, 1% of omega 3s, I don't care. Which is really a proper idea because you want to build your immunity. You want to get a little of something so your body can detect it and know it's there, so you don't end up like the boy in the bubble, where you can't go outside anymore.
That's true. You mentioned earlier about earwax, like excessive earwax. Is that because you eat something that
Yes.
causes that? Oh, what would that be?
It can be anything from malted milks to all kind of
Yeah.
things to incomplete digestion, and then it causes that problem. So
Really?
you kind of have to figure out what you're eating that causes that. And the ears are morning food, so you do things to correct it at that time. Uh, a lot of things that will help the ears are the stone fruits like peaches and pears and things of that nature. Apricots, mangoes, papaya, those kind of not solid foods like bananas or things like that. More not mucilaginous foods, but more watery foods, and that helps thin the wax out because the wax has to form from someplace, and we eat a lot of waxes in our food. We don't realize that they even sell waxes like frankincense, which is beneficial, and myrrh, which is a wax, and some of those waxes are good. Some of them actually cause the problem that we have that we think are good, like carrageenan. That is not good. And
What's a
what
carrageenan?
are those other waxes they put in? Can you think of a guar gum? Right, guar gum and those things are not good for us. So they can be a cause of earwax. So
What's a
it's usually
gorgum?
something in the diet. And you, even though we have toxins in the air, most of the problems that come internally, other than the lungs, and sometimes the lungs too, are going to be something we stuff in our mouth, even an outside allergen. If I have an allergen to jasmine, if I have jasmine plants, I probably won't get it. But if I take jasmine and if I take jasmine oil and I'm not around jasmine plants, I'm okay. But if I have my window open, there's a jasmine plant out there, and I'm taking jasmine oil, I'm very likely to get a jasmine allergy. So you you watch what's inside your body and what is my environment. Am I in a place where there's cedar fever? Am I in a place where there's these kind of pollens coming around this time of year? And what am I eating that's associated with it or related to it? So an almond is related to a cherry. And so if you have an allergen to one, you're probably going to get it to other. And a cashew allergy, one of the most serious ones, uh, poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac are in the cashew family, not the other way around. Cashews, when you plant them, are so toxic, people have to wear gloves, and many people have to give up the job. So that's why it's very important to at least bake cashews a little bit. They usually by law do it even on raw cashews. They do it a little bit, but often I put it in the oven a little more to get a little more of that uh, acid out of there that is related to poison oak, poison ivy, and poison sumac.
Wow. Wow. Will those things cause excessive earwax?
Will what help it?
Does excessive earwax, do they come from like things like cashews, things like that? Oils?
No, no, the cashews
No.
actually will help it, but that causes
Oh,
other
help
kind of
it.
allergens and things. It's usually the
I
waxes
see.
and the foods that they, a lot of additives they put in, and the things that they use as thickeners. Many foods, they even in ice cream, a lot of times they'll put a thickener in it. Those guar gums and the various things. There was a company, and this will both show the mental aspect and the physical aspect. This company sold a type of guar gum, and the name of it escapes me. But you know where they got it? They got it for free on the forest floor. The forest department allowed them to go and take this stuff out. And then they bottled it. The whole expense was in the bottling. And they sold it as a cure for cancer. And you would take $900 a month to do it. And when I pretended on the internet, like I often do, like I'm a wholesaler. And then I find out what the real price of these things are, including guar gum and all of that. So I was recruited for a group. I was going to be multi-marketing to sell this type of forest product. And I went there and I was really annoyed because I'd gone to another meeting. They said they were going to give me the science, and all they gave me was the business plan. So finally, this person told me there's a medical doctor going to talk. So when he talked, I realized it was BS, and I was about to raise my hand and complain when suddenly a good old boy in overalls, a farmer, stood up and gave his testimonial. He said, they told me they were going to do chemotherapy for my cancer, and the and I asked, what are my chances? Oh, 5%. Wait a minute. You're going to toxify me and I got 5% of surviving? Are you nuts? So he walked out. Someone told him about this company and he took the supplement and got rid of his cancer. Now, was it psychosomatic? What the heck was it? But I didn't raise my hand because I figured he's better off paying $1,000 a month than he is at the hands of these people who are going to kill him and charge him for it. At least the forest product, it can contribute to aging and problems, but it's not going to get you right away. You're going to get 20 or 30 years extra. You just won't make it maybe to 80s and 90s and 100s like you would if you ate better. But anyway, so it's a mixed bag, and I kind of shut my mouth sometimes and let these people run their con games because they're better off than the big pharma, which is the ultimate con game. Almost all drugs, except maybe thyroid medication and maybe some of the diabetic drugs, maybe 1% to 2% of them are actual. The others are farces. They do much more harm than good, no matter what they say.
Wow. This was really good. This was interesting. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Now I can, when you're up closer to your mic.
Oh, sorry. I'll hold this
I can
talk.
mostly hear you, but a couple of words I don't. What?
Well, this is...
No, it's your mic. We got it. Of course, I know.
So, yeah, right.
Yeah, now you're clear. Yeah.
Really? Oh my goodness. I need to get a mic that's closer up here then.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Wow. So this was actually a really interesting conversation. I think we got a lot of the tooth healing part of it. Yeah, and sensitivity part of the tooth.
Yeah.
So and so because of healing the tooth, you don't actually have to pull it out then when you have a toothache. If you can bear and grin the pain.
If you can bear, and there are ways, probably I could have even been more constructive to do more aloe and more thieves oil and more garlic and more things and more of my just miracle healing things my friend sent me. Then and even you can use cayenne as a pain reliever. It works. And even
what did
salt
you do with the
is another thing that works to relieve infection. And I forgot about sugar. Most of the time when I start to get a dental abscess, if I get it early enough, I hold sugar in my mouth. And if it's serious pain, it takes me about a mayonnaise jar, empty mayonnaise jar. I have plenty of those lying around since I don't use mayonnaise anymore. And I will take about 4 ounces of sugar and it will get rid of the pain. And sometimes it takes a teaspoon and just hold it in my mouth a little while. That will work. When that doesn't work, then I go to the aloe and extra thieves oil and extra whatever I'm taking and garlic and whatnot.
So with the sugar, you just have a teaspoon of sugar and you hold it
I just
in
hold
your
it
mouth?
in the mouth. Now, I have a problem. I could not do sugar pulling because it fills my mouth with so much saliva, which is protective to the teeth, by the way, because many people get blocked by the saliva. And what was the device you had that blocks the saliva that you went to the dentist to sue him for? You had something in your mouth. what is it? Invisalign?
Oh,
Or whatever it is. Anyway,
Invisalign.
I mean, that
Like
she went
it's a
to the dentist
straightener.
and sued him, and of course she lost because the judge was on the side. My husband has one of those. It's okay, and then she lost the suit. We should have known better. But anyway, he talked her into it, and then it caused cavities and things like that. But
Sure.
she again used aloe and things of that nature. Uh, Most dentists are menaces. There are good dentists like J.E. Phillips, who did the blotting technique, and other dentists know it. But sometimes the holistic dentists are even the more dangerous, like when they tell you to pull out the other fillings that are giving you problems and cavitations and all this stuff. Most of it's nonsense. The shock of pulling a tooth out of your mouth is much more of a global challenge to the entire body than the root canal or whatever else you've got will ever do. You can always shunt a root canal or by using reflexology and techniques like that and certain herbs to prevent further problems. But once you pull a tooth out, it's considered an attack. And say you replace it with a filling. You think a filling substitutes for the meridians? You know, we have meridians in the teeth that match your front two teeth or the kidneys, et cetera, et cetera. Heart is on the very end, and you get all these reflexes. Well, do they actually think that a hole is going to be better than what's left of a natural tooth, or that you're going to put some kind of a gold filling or something? It's not going to interrupt with the filling. Part of my problem was getting a gold filling and not getting the other fillings taken out. So guess what? I made a battery. Back in the 4th grade, long, long time ago, when pennies were made out of copper and nickels were made out of nickel, you could put a lemon in your mouth and a penny and a nickel and feel an electric flow going through your body. If you think that doesn't destroy your teeth, it does. You're basically using, well, I even forget the name they call it in the electrical technology, but it causes damage. And that was one of the stupid things I did. If I had it to do over again, I would have put a regular mercury filling in my mouth, and I probably would have had a lot more teeth than I do now.
Interesting. So that's better to save it rather than pulling it.
If you can.
And if you can, yeah.
Now, ideally,
you-
if I knew the technology, I met a guy in Sedona, 103 years old, didn't need glasses, and had all of his teeth.
What? What did he do?
You know, I had a girlfriend that sabotaged me from talking to him. For some reason, she didn't want me to talk to this guy, so I never did find out. I was a bit annoyed. The other thing, here's a really strange thing. You know how they say the gums erode, then your teeth fall out?
Yeah.
In Texas, my high school buddy's grandfather I met, he had no gums and perfect teeth. And so obviously there's something wrong with the idea of the gums because it looked, in fact, he laughed at me because I couldn't help staring at him. He opens his mouth and there's teeth that long, all the way down to the bone and no gums. So of course I wondered, what the heck? So I really don't know. He ate a terrible diet too. It was all old fried sausages. Never changed the oil in the iron frying pan, ever. Stunk up the place. And there he was in his 80s when I met him, and with perfect teeth, just no gums at all.
That's crazy. Now, what did you do with the pain?
With the pain? Yeah, that I have various ways of dealing with that I've learned over the years. One is going pain, go into it, and it can obviate it. You can actually neutralize it by going into it. So there are mental techniques to do with that. When I have a 3 or a 4 pain, I keep busy. I read, I do the computer and stuff, and I usually can forget about it. I just transcend it. when it gets up to 8, 9, or 10, then one time I ran back and forth in the kitchen for about an hour. And I screamed and I did things like that when I haven't had to do that here. Otherwise, I'd wake Vibrant Gal up at night. Uh, but I moan and I groan and I do things like that. And then I do some of these pain control techniques. I also breathe into a paper bag, which has a little bit of an antibiotic, a little bit of a anesthetic effect. And also, again, aloe partially does it. And mostly I try to black out. Because when I pass out, I don't feel the pain. Then when I wake up, oh no, not that again. I'm going to go back to sleep. How can I go back to sleep?
How do you sleep through the pain?
Yeah, because when you sleep, it's okay. So I often, when I have an episode like I did this time, I sleep a lot. And that sleep also is anabolic, so it helps the healing process as well. The more you can really get into delta, the ultimate healing brainwave, the more you're going to heal something like I went through. And this was a tough one. This was the longest lasting one. Usually the aloe and things like that, if I go beyond 5 days, I don't think I've ever done that before. This one, I had a relapse. It was being cut down significantly the first couple of days. Then, what did we have? A power outage. We had a bunch of drama go on here, problems. And then it got to my immune system and came back full blast. And the second time, it was harder to go away. So I just had, yesterday, I had about 5% of it left, and today it's about 1%. I'm feeling really good doing this interview. Good and well.
Well, that's awesome. Well, that's good. But I don't know how you do, because I remember, geez, toothaches, and man, it just hurts so bad. One time my face got so swollen.
Yep.
From it. It's awful.
I have had, now get this, and so I advise sometimes if you have a decent dentist or doctor to go to, because I have had abscesses so bad that my ears started hurting and my eyes started hurting and my shoulders froze up and all my lymph glands were swollen on the side and I couldn't move my upper shoulders. I really thought I was gone at that point. That's happened 2 or 3 times. The first time it happened, I was in Texas and I had access to a friend who was a medical doctor, so he gave me an antibiotic. Ideally, we would have antibiotics over the counter so we can make a decision for ourselves. Because if I had to do even this one over, I might consider an antibiotic. Because it's easier to clean up the damage from an antibiotic than it is to go through that kind of pain and having your whole body suffer. So if you can get access to an antibiotic and a good one, there are ones that are painkillers. I've had one antibiotic that took 2 days of pain to go away, and the other one took a matter of hours. In fact, I'll tell you a story to show how serious they can get. I'm in Katy, Texas, and I'm bragging to a friend of how you don't be a wimp about pain. I've had pain before, no problem. I went in to eat something after the call, and I bit into something and thought something's terribly wrong. Within 1 hour, the abscess had eaten through into my nose. I thought I was writing my will out. A friend delivered my doctor friend's antibiotic by driving out 100 miles to the ranch and saved my butt. And the pain went away within about 6 hours or so. And I didn't have to write my will. And I'm still here after well over a decade. But they can be really serious and you don't mess with them. This one, rather than an infection, was more like a nerve tooth, because I got a pain in my eye, a pain on the top of my head, but no swollen lymph glands, and could move my shoulders and everything fine. So it was a different kind of pain. It was more serious in pain, but I think less serious in guests and things like that, which I don't like.
That's incredible. Yeah, I can't imagine uh
Yeah,
surviving
get a
through that
connection with
without
an
getting.
antibiotic that I recommend. And maybe
Yeah,
sometime over the messenger or something, I'll give you the name that I got from this doctor. You might research, maybe some people have reactions to certain antibiotics, so you be careful with
sure.
that. But this one worked wonders for me. The other one I had, I did, last time I went to a dentist, I believe, no, next to the last time, I made the mistake again. I went to a dentist in Texas and he wouldn't see me until my pain was gone. So he gave me an antibiotic, and it took all of 3 days to get rid of the pain before I could go see him. Then I did get a tooth pulled and things like that. So I was wary when I took the second antibiotic. I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to go through 2 more days of this crap. But it worked in 6 hours. It got rid of the pain. So obviously, different antibiotics do work as painkillers, and that one certainly did. That was a really serious one. I really thought I was checking out on that one. And
Wow,
now
and it
I couldn't have access to the doctors because of all the stuff that's been going on for the 4 years. So I basically was stuck. You got to use natural therapies. And I found they work just as good on me. They've been wonders. So
wow.
Gal has saved my life about what? A dozen times, right? No, half a dozen times maybe. I mean, I've had really serious abscesses.
Wow, that's crazy. Did you try the sugar pulling with this one or holding it
Yeah,
in your
but
mouth?
it doesn't. I get so much saliva. My record is 4 minutes, nowhere near 20
Okay.
minutes. I've actually done aloe in my mouth for hours and done oil pulling for an hour before it. I've just kept it going.
Wow. Well, those are good advice, that's for sure. That's really incredible. When you told me that you didn't get your tooth pulled and you healed it, I was like, "What? How is that possible?"
If I get my more teeth pulled, I'm not going to have enough to chew anything at all. So I want to
Yeah,
keep on whatever I've got left because
sure.
uh, and take care of your teeth and be wary of standard dental problems. I never went to a dentist until I was 19 or 20 years old after high school. Never went to a dentist. And when they got to me, they had 6 cavities and they were small. After fixing them, I started to get a whole bunch of cavities and following their dental advice till finally I went to the doctor and I said, uh, how come I'm getting these dental problems now? And he said, keep brushing. He said, I brush 12 times a day. I even, whenever I think of my teeth, I brush them. I said, it's making it worse. That's when I found out the blotting brush about a decade later. When I was in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and was having bleeding gums, my my friend said, "Well, Dr. Phillips gives these free workshops at the local hospital. Go show up." Changed my life. After that, I had no problems. In fact, my teeth were so good. I had a perfect bite, very rare, and uh, and was demonstrating blotting brushes for years until I went on the road, got under stress, and couldn't blot every day like I was before. Then eh, stuff happened.
Yeah.
So take care of your teeth. Even my mother, who used to be a dental assistant at one time and snuck her relatives in to do tooth pullings and things of that nature without the dentist knowing it on a Saturday, uh, she said, take care of your teeth or you'll be sorry later on. He was
Yep,
right. Mother knows
absolutely.
best.
Yes. Yep. Wow, wow. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This very interesting topic that we talked about today. As usual, we go down the different trails.
Totally spontaneous. My only notes today, because I was so busy with fighting this and everything, was they now are making 15-minute cities in California, and they're buying land up for the animals. And can you? This is almost unbelievable. in Agora, California, they have built a 12-lane highway for animals, overpass for the animals to walk over. No homeless allowed, no other people, but just a $93 million project. It's going to cost more, that's always their budget, for animals to walk over there. And their first thing they said, oh, look, it's already being used and it's not finished yet. An owl flew over it. Well, an owl that needs an overpass must be a sick owl or a weird owl that we don't even know about. So that was the only notes I had. So everything we did today was spontaneous.
Yeah, that's always, yes, that's for sure. But I think the last time we said we were going to try to talk about astral projection.
Yeah, we never did. I guess
we didn't get to
I
today.
guess we'll have to save that for the next show.
Yeah, that would be for the next show. We'll talk about astral projection.
Then we'll show how to do that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, in fact, it reminded me because I forgot what we were going to talk about. So I will start taking some notes for that and be prepared for
yes.
it.
And that brings us to an end of another episode of the Sensible Hippie Podcast. I want to extend a big mahalo to my special guest and friend, Atom Bergstrom, for diving deep into the mysteries of health and nutrition with us today. Atom, your insights never fail to inspire and challenge our thinking. If you've enjoyed our journey today, please help others to find our show by giving us a thumbs up, subscribing, or leaving a positive review on Apple or Spotify. Every review helps our ohana to grow and share more adventures like this with you. So don't forget to stay connected and join us again for more explorations into the unknown. So until the next time, remember, every healthy thought plants the seed for a healthy life. So until we meet again, ahui ho kako. Bye.
Get on your feet, this sights to see.